I mean, I'm switching from my Russian accent to my Ukrainian accent right now. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine is on the news. Everybody knows what's going on, but we'd like to talk about what God is doing in the midst of all of that. And probably the best way is to speak about people, real people, not politics, not what the generals are doing, what is happening, but talk about what people are going through. And I was thinking maybe the best way to do it is to talk a little bit about our people, our broadcasters, and through their eyes you might be able to see what God is doing in the country of Ukraine. This is just a wonderful young couple. They recently became married, and she's 2 months pregnant here, and they're so much in love. Kind of a little too much for my taste. Well, what I mean, they're talking a little bit too much about it. It's like, oh, I love you. No, I love you more. No, I love you so much, dear. No, there, like, and then she drops a napkin on his knees. Here's your napkin. I'm like, stop doing this. This is a business meeting we're trying to have here. Just grow up already. And then, of course, the war started, and these kids had to grow up really fast. And what they were kind of thinking, what do we do now when this happened? What's the best place for us to be in? And they were in Kyiv doing videos for us, some of those short videos that you're starting. And they thought maybe God has somewhere else, so they went from relatively safe Kyiv to very unsafe city of Mykolaiv in the southern Ukraine, and that's where a lot of soldiers are coming for training, and then they go back to fight, and they come for training and rest, and they go to fight, and they are ministering to those soldiers and just providing radios for them, providing programs for them, including the FBH program, and talking to them and blessing them and praying for them, and sometimes we give them a radio and we say, you can always call us, and people are calling us when they listen to those radio programs. So I'm privileged to serve with these kind of people. Edward is another good friend of mine. I think I should have stood on that rock to be the same height with this guy. He's this tall, 2 meters. I knew him when he was little, but he's so gifted, and it was wonderful to see. It is wonderful to see for me how God has been preparing those people who are serving today in such different ways, but you see the plan of God when it comes together. And now he's a former businessman. He's leading our team in such a steady way, and just bringing calm to people. As you can imagine, the war does crazy things to individuals, but he's able to bring this focused kind of leadership. And during these few months, we were able to start 3 new stations in Ukraine during the war. This is just amazing. Talk about miracles. This is the biggest miracle that happened to us during the wartime, including the station in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. That's 4.5 million potential listeners. And now we get about 25% of our response that comes from that area. So many people are listening in. Edward is this guy who, he has a gift, some kind of gift. I was talking to the government official who is responsible for giving out frequencies, and he says, this guy of yours, Edward, he has something that we don't get. To start a station in Kyiv, you would have to normally pay $1.2 million US. If you can imagine, we don't have that kind of money. So, but he says, this guy comes to us and says, well, friends. He says, nobody calls us friends. He's like, friends, we need a station in Kyiv. And here we have a station in Kyiv. So that's how God works in these special times. Of course, times are very difficult. We put together this couple minutes of video for you just to feel, just to see what is going on.
February 2022. the unthinkable happened. A massive invasion of deadly Russian forces into Ukraine. A miles-long line of armored vehicles approached Kiev, the capital. Rocket fire destroyed entire neighborhoods, and later, entire cities. Thousands of new orphans, millions of refugees. FEBC ministers were shaken too. Each team member has lost someone to this war, a husband, a brother, a friend. But we were also prepared to serve. Hundreds of fruitful church connections were established. Thousands of hurting people received real help from well-trained counselors. Broadcasters gained an audience of several million people. As the war raged, God allowed us to open 3 new stations in major Ukrainian cities. Ivano-Frankivsk is a western city hosting thousands of refugees from the war zone. Zaporizhia is right at the front line. Its neighboring nuclear station is now controlled by Russian forces. Hundreds of thousands are living in fear for their lives. Thousands of new listeners there are responding to our broadcasts. And the Lord allowed us to open a new station in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, with millions of potential listeners. This is a historic move of God. Friends, we have never had this many listeners in decades of broadcasting in Ukraine. We have never had this many responses and conversions. Your help translates into saved lives. Only God knows what the future will bring, but our goal is clear. We must fulfill our mission. We use media to inspire people to follow Jesus. We inspire people who are widowed, who lost limbs, who lost friends, homes, and jobs. We inspire those who face death daily. We do this for one reason. We know that Jesus is the answer to what they need most: salvation, freedom, and rest for their hearts. Our Canadian partners have been assisting FEBC Ukraine with fervent prayers, significant financial support, godly advice, and powerful transmitters. Thank you. Thank you for standing with us in this fight for millions of souls.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, brothers and sisters in Canada.
Thank you, friends.
For some of these guys, it took like 5 takes to say thank you, friends, because they don't speak English really well. But it comes from the heart. It really does. When I was talking about Vlad in Russia, I was talking to him yesterday, and he said, "Well, can you ask the question of FBH supporters?" And the question is why? Why do you support a FEBC ministry in Russia? You don't have to. We realize that. You don't have to care about Russians, Ukrainians, people who live on the other side of the world, yet you do. And we're so grateful for that. Of course, as we minister in Ukraine and we are going through some of the most difficult times in our lives and in the life of the country, as you heard, every single one of us, we lost someone who's very dear to us, very close to us, including myself, and it is, heavy. And as we are ministering, we realize we cannot do this by our own strength, and this is the passage that kind of is with us as we are. Remember, be strong and courageous. That's who said that? Do you remember? That was God himself speaking to Joshua. And before that, Moses spoke those words to Joshua, and that wasn't enough for Joshua. That was great. He accepted that from Moses, but he needed something more. When Moses is dead, and now he is the #1 leader, and he has to step forward. He has to be brave. He has to be courageous, and he is not anymore. So he's just standing there and is asking God, I need your help. And God is telling him, be strong and courageous in verse 6. And then in verse 7, we don't know what happened in between, but God is speaking to him and says, didn't I tell you to be strong and courageous? Why? Because I will be with you. And that's the words that we live by. He is with us. And that's why we so appreciate your prayers. So appreciate your prayers. We see the answers to your prayers on a daily basis. So this is so wonderful. Some of you this morning was speaking Ukrainian to me, and that was so wonderful, But not all of you do, right? That's not good. We'll teach you, though, how to speak a little Ukrainian. This is our mission statement. We inspire Ukrainians to follow Jesus Christ. This is what we exist for. We inspire people to follow Jesus Christ. And in Ukrainian, it sounds like nadihai, nadihai. Can we say it together? Nadihai. Oh, you Ukrainians, this is so beautiful. This is so wonderful. And as we do that, the results are coming. And I just want to say this. We realize this is not us who are inspiring people. You cannot inspire people without the power of God, without the power of the Holy Spirit and Him doing the inspiration. So that said, I just want you to see what God is doing in bringing fruits.
This is a harvest time. As listener responses from all over Ukraine poured in, we had to increase the size of our team of evangelistic counselors. 35 people are currently serving. Their mission is not simply to help people in their crisis situations, but to lead them to Christ and to a church in their city. Irina is the head of our counseling team. She was almost killed twice in 1 week. God protected her life, and now she's helping thousands every month. Most of the callers are younger than 30, and many are in despair. Dozens of teens were saved from suicide and for eternity.
I was talking to Irina recently, and I said, well, actually tell me, how did God protect your life? And she told me, she said, I was in my apartment, and suddenly I hear explosions started to happen. And she lived on the outskirts of Kyiv, and that's where the invasion began. And she said explosions started to happen, and machine guns everywhere. She lives alone. And she said, I did not know what was happening, so looked outside the window, and I see helicopters and soldiers dropping from helicopters. So she said, I called my sister and just talked to her, said, do you know what's going on? And her sister lives on the other side of town, and she said, I don't know. So they're speaking, kind of, both of them are scared, and then they hear this massive explosion, and those two girls, sisters, just started to scream into the phone, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what to do. And the sister says, well, maybe you can come to my house. It seems to be a little safer. And Irina said, how can I? You cannot use a bus or a taxi. They're shooting outside. And she said, you have this electric bike that somebody gave you. So she jumps on the bike, forgets it's an electric bike, so she's pedaling like crazy through the town, and the bullets are flying, and she says, I came to my sister's house safe. My hands shook for half an hour. I could not stop. It was so stressful. But that same night, the rocket went into her building, and so many people were killed. And she said, as I was just staying with my sister and thinking about the fact that God protected my life, at the same time feeling sorry for my neighbors who died. She said, I was just disoriented, did not know what was going on. And then a couple days later, she was sharing a bed with her little niece, and she said, we woke up at 5 a.m. because of this huge explosion that destroyed the building next to them. It just was destroyed completely, a big apartment building. They only had a foundation left. And she said, we woke up out of this explosion, and of course the windows were broken, and a piece of the glass from the window kind of went into the wall. She said, I opened my eyes, and I see this vibrating piece of glass over me. And at that moment, she said, God, you protected my life twice now. I know you did it for a reason. Tell me what the reason is. And just a couple days later, we invited her. She's very experienced in counseling people. And we needed someone who is experienced, who is well-trained, because the calls that we started to receive were so difficult. I'm not going to give you all the most difficult calls. But just as an example, somebody is calling and saying, hey, my mother-in-law was bringing my 3-year-old daughter to me, and they were under shelling, so my mother-in-law is now bleeding to death. We are at the hospital, and she's not going to survive. They're telling me, my little daughter will, my 3-year-old will. She might lose her leg. Can you help me? Can you, Jesus, help me? And now we have people who are able to say something to people like that. And we get so many calls like that, people who are listening to us, and they know we are a source of hope, a source of help, and now they're calling us, and we have 35 people who are ministering the gospel to people who are calling, who are deeply, deeply hurt. And friends, in moments like this, you really realize that you don't really have anything. You can be 10 times a psychologist, but when this kind of hurt is shared with you, you only have Jesus. Stephen was sharing a little bit about the Bible messages, and this guy, I will play his video to you in just a moment. But he's one of the counselors, and he's one of the people that we serve with. And when the war began, he was broadcasting from his apartment. It was safer, so he doesn't have to travel. And then he was about to start the program, and then the sirens began sounding, and he had to go to the bomb shelter. Bomb shelter is a room like this, maybe, under the building, and a lot of people, of course, come from this building, from neighboring buildings, and kids are crying, dogs, cats, smells. People getting hysterical, scared, and all of this is happening. And he comes and says, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot start my program. And then he realizes he has his phone with him, and he's like, I can do it from my phone. So he just pushed a button, and he started broadcasting. And he's saying, hello, this is Sergei Nakul, and I'm broadcasting now from a bomb shelter, and I'll be sharing about Jesus. And some people started kind of making fun of him. Is he going crazy? And then his neighbor says, well, this is an actual broadcaster, and he is being heard on 10 stations throughout Ukraine. And suddenly people started to listen to him. And he says, I'm broadcasting, I'm watching people, and suddenly everybody is quiet, and they listen to me, what I'm sharing. And he says, what can I share? And I'm thinking, would be the good time to share some Bible verses with these people. And he didn't have his Bible with him, and cannot even use his phone because he's broadcasting into it. So whatever he remembered, he started sharing just by heart. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And he said at that moment, everybody, you see people are crying, just looking at me. And he continues, even if I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear evil. And he said that was such power in the Word of God. Since then, he's been doing just this, comes to the studio, opens the Bible, starts reading the scriptures, and people respond like never before. I'll let you speak to you a little bit.
Dear friends, greetings to you from Kiev, Ukraine, war zone. And a lot of you are asking me, Pastor Sergei, aren't you afraid of being in Kiev right now? Well, I'm a human being, and of course I have fears, like millions of Ukrainians. I am in his hand, and he says, don't be afraid, I am with you. So I could express all of my feelings of fear to him and receive powerful consolation and comfort and internal peace that cannot be described by human words. What is more important, that Word of God reminds me, for example, in Psalm 23, these precious words of consolation that are precious remedy for wounded soul. David is saying, when I will go into the valley of death, I will not fear. I will not fear. I will not fear evil. Why? Because you are with me. So God was with David. God is with me right now. God is with us. And he says, don't be afraid. I am with you. Pray for us, support us, that we may continue our ministry here and proclaim good news of Jesus Christ to our people, that they can find the real joy, real comfort, and real peace that can be found only in Jesus Christ.
Only in Jesus Christ. And Sergei was one of the pastors who helped the team of counselors, because they are going, helping people like that day in, day out. They need to be ministered to themselves. And just last week, he was drafted to the Ukrainian army as a chaplain. We are kind of, praying for him and rejoicing, because he's going to be ministering. He's very well educated, so has 2 master's degrees in theology, and there are very few people like that in Ukraine. So he's going to be ministering to the generals of the Ukrainian army, some of the top people. So pray for him as he's doing that. But we are left without this minister. So now it's up to Alex, who is the FBH person in Ukraine. He's the only pastor now in this team. So he's ministering even more now. He's been doing this for months, but he's even more now. He's ministering to the people who are doing the counseling. He and his wife Nadia, they do counseling themselves. They know what it is. They know how to help people. They know how difficult it is, how challenging it is to do that. But they are also ministering to people who are doing the ministry themselves. And it is just powerful what God is doing. I can give you so many testimonies how people are calling, and many of them are children. And 65% of the people who are calling us or texting us are young people under the age of 30, and about 10% of them are children. It is. I was once listening to one of our counselors as she was talking to one guy who is 13 years old, and she was so calm and just saying, "Hey, no, Nick, no, that's not the way out. This is not what you do. Suicide is never the answer." And there are so many 13, 14-year-old Ukrainians who don't know what to do with their lives. They cannot believe their parents that everything will be okay, because everything will not be okay. They understand that, but they don't know how to handle all the pressures and all the fears. So many of them are listening to us and then calling us. And Alex and Nadia are some of those people who are bringing them back to life, and into the eternal life. So kids, teenagers, adults, people who lost their husbands, whose husbands are serving, and so many families are now broken. As we get so many calls, Alex was telling me, so many calls from people who are serving, and they know their wife is building a different family. And all of those heartbreaking problems, war is ugly, it is scary, but all of those problems we hear, and we are ministering to those people. Alex and Nadia, of course, they're doing their radio program, which is very effective, and also inspiring teen girls who come to their church. And they decided to organize this little club for young teenagers. The vast majority of them are not Christians, and they play some games with them, and then just like this. And then after they do that, they do some Bible study. Nadia is excellent. I've seen her do this. She's excellent with young girls. When she's talking, she's so confident.
І коли Бог береться за якусь справу, вона шикарно і ідеально виконує.
Just sharing the gospel, how God can be powerful in your life, that you're dear to Him. And she says, it's amazing how many young girls are suffering because they don't believe that. They don't think they're worth of loving. And she's just instilling this kind of love to them.
Я не знаю, що говорити, а Бог каже, я буду через тебе говорити.
Another area of ministry for Nadia is ministering to the widows. And there are so many of them in Ukraine today, and people don't know what to do, how to handle. A lot of them are young widows. This is some of them. So she's talking to them And then sometimes she records their stories and takes those stories to the studio and invites a pastor, and they talk about those stories, about the pain, about the reality of death, about what's happening to a person who is left now living, and the feelings of guilt and grief and all of this, and where's Jesus in all of this? And people who are listening, they feel this is the reality of life. This is not somebody preaching at them. This is some cases from real life that are brought to the radio when millions of people can listen. So they're so effective in doing that, and they're also sending packages to thousands of widows and just blessing them like that. And this is what you are doing. This is FBH. We are so grateful for this partnership. When the war just began, in their little studio, they had their kind of part of the church. So it's a church and the studio is there. They had hundreds of people, refugees. So Alex would be stepping over people to get to the studio to start the program. And so many of them are also invited. We also invite people too who are not Christians, who are our listeners. We are missionary radio. We are broadcasting to non-Christians. And Alex invites people who don't know anything about Christ and talks to them. And those questions are real. And sometimes they're very hard, but they are from real life. This is one guy who just met with. I was talking to Alex a couple days ago, and I said, any fresh stories? He says, yeah, I was speaking in this church, and this young family comes to me and says, well, we know your voice. We became Christians through your programs, and we were living in Akhterov. That's the city in the east of Ukraine, heavily bombed. And they had to escape from there, but that's where they became believers, listening to Alex. And they were so excited to meet him, just hugging him. He said, nobody hugged me so much. You know, when people become Christians, sometimes we kind of forget how precious our faith is, how wonderful it is to have Jesus in our lives. And of course, soldiers who listen to us have so many testimonies from the trenches, as people are listening to us, listen to FBH as the bombing is going on. And this is one of those guys. Nikolai, he actually became a Christian just before the war began. And he was so excited that he has this new faith now. And then he went to war right when it started, to the most dangerous areas. And this is him. I mean, he's on the left. This is another guy, the president of Ukraine. We are also praying for him, and one day he will be Christian. But it is just wonderful to see how God is using new believers, and Nikolai is one of them, and he is so strong. He says, at one point I was running and we were attacking, and I had two of my best friends, and one of them was killed instantly. One of them was wounded, so I'm carrying him back to safety and praying for him. And then people say, how can you do this for so many months? You're so strong. He says, there's one reason I listen to this program. Just listen to this. Just listen to this. And he gives radios to people and gives our little brochures so people can start listening to the radio, and people do, and many of them get saved. So anyways, I'm out of time, but what is ahead for us is we are working now with this pastor who hopefully will be, and we'll be talking with Stephen about that, but hopefully he's going to be on the team. He lives in Kyiv, a very effective pastor, and he also has experience in media, so hopefully he's going to become one of our broadcasters. And then we'll have more of those short videos in Ukraine. We already know what to do, we have experience, and we know what Stephen was talking about follow-up, how to really talk to people afterwards. And we will continue to develop the ministry to widows. Anyways, be strong and courageous, right? But this is not verse 6. This is not verse 7. This is verse 18. And this is also God speaking to Joshua, but he's now speaking through through his people. Joshua has shared the vision, and he knows he cannot do this alone, because he remembers when he shared the vision for the first time 40 years ago, people wanted to stone him. And now 40 years later, he's stepping forward again. And he's saying, people, would you go with me? We can go and defeat the enemy. We'll get the land. We will have victory in the name of our God. Will you go with me? And people are saying, Joshua, we will go with you. We will die if needed. We will do anything that's needed. We will risk our lives. Only you, Joshua, only you be strong and courageous. And friends, I just want to say, this is what we are hearing from you as you are praying for the ministry, as you're giving to the ministry. You are saying, in essence, you're saying to us, be strong and courageous. And without your prayers, it would be impossible. Without your giving, it would be impossible to be there at the front lines, just being as vulnerable as we are, as weak as we are. But we have the Lord with us because we have such a great army of supporters. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll play this. Do we have time for a song? It's a little song from this first couple and that we talked about, the newlyweds. They just recorded it playing a guitar in the city of Mykolaiv. The rocket went into this building yesterday, and they came to record this little video the next day.
Taught me to say